Hello, Internet! My name is Aqua, and welcome to the RWBY Volume 5, Chapter 5, not reaction, review? Discussion thing with Rebkos.
Hello!
We're rolling with that one. And this, I was a little disappointed personally. I'll just start off by saying that.
It's a very, very exposition-heavy episode, and exposition is difficult to do well, and they just missed the mark on this.
A little bit. The main issues that I have I just want to get this out of the way so that then we can start discussing the episode. The main issues I had with it were that, we had a bunch of big stuff happen last episode, and then we touched none of it at all. And that really frustrated me. And I've also realized that I really don't give a shit about what's going on Miragerie right now.
Yeah.
It's not interesting in any way. I feel like that section could have been shortened up.
And so I think some of that is probably the timeline issue. If we still don't entirely know how these segments are happening with respect to each other.
Almost undoubtedly, that's the case. And it's like they used 4 or 5 minutes of the episode showing them trying to get signatures. Maybe not quite that much, and that could have been something that could have been to students. Why is nobody? It's like they just say they're going out and then they meet up and be like, no one got it, but they just had to show it, which is fine. And a lot of people did enjoy this episode. I will say that. I want to be like, this wasn't a bad episode. It just wasn't.
This may also be an episode that plays better in movie form. Volume 4 is much more enjoyable to watch in its entirety than it was broken up into episodes, just because with the girls split up, everything was so disconnected, and you kind of would have, I know right now, all I care about is what's going on with Weiss and Yang, and we didn't see them at all.
Yep, exactly.
So now we have to wait another week.
That's the thing,
if I was watching the movie, I'd have to wait 15 more minutes, and then we'd move on.
Exactly, yeah. That's a very good point. And it is that, like I said, there's all the stuff that happened and we saw none of it. And that's what and it seems like a lot of people want to see. There were still a lot of people who really enjoyed this, but there were also a lot of people who really didn't enjoy this.
There were good moments of this, but it seemed like I think I saw one person on Reddit complaining that the episode was too short, and if anything, it was too long for the content delivered.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know what they could have cut necessarily as far as the storyline stuff, because a lot of it was important. The Blake and Sun stuff wasn't too much important, except for just characterization stuff.
Almost seemed to be, and this is one of those cases of the fandom was going to complain either way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff that was revealed in the Blake monologue was stuff about Ilya, and everything we learned about Ilya in that bit we saw during the Blake short.
Yeah.
Now you can kind of argue that, okay, well, yes, the Blake short is canon, but is it good for a volume to be dependent on making sense by having this side episode? So from kind of overall movie point of view, yes, it was appropriate to have this scene. From we all already know this, it's kind of eh.
Well, it was also she was explaining it to Sun, who didn't know any of this. But let's just go ahead and jump into the episode since we're already kind of talking about it a little bit.
There we go.
I have pretty sparse notes on this. There's not really much to talk about at this.
I know the biggest thing I have in caps is fish faunus. So
yes, that was a revelation for sure. But
I actually watched this episode with a couple friends, and when that happened, I was like, "Oh my god, are there fish faunus?" And they just burst out laughing.
So we see Blake smile at Sun for the first time in forever.
Yeah, she's warming up to him, but I still don't ship it. I'm sorry.
So I don't like Sun. Sun is my least favorite character, I think, honestly.
I feel Sun is kind of a secondary Nora in that he's hanging a lantern on things. He is speaking for the fandom. So when
but he's not
doing
doing it as well.
He's not doing it as well, but that's also because Sun is a very different personality type from Nora, and Sun is much more
straightforward.
I want to say
earnest?
No. Invasive almost, of just like, you're gonna kill me, right? One thing I did appreciate about this section is effectively what played out is kind of what we discussed a couple episodes ago, of people are not interested in fighting. They
very much
just, I mean, what was it, 2 or 3 episodes ago, we kind of went, yeah, no one's going to be signing up for this war against Haven. And then, yes, that's exactly what we saw play out.
Yep.
No one's interested. Like, they don't see this as their problem.
We saw there were a couple people who did seem like somewhat interested, but they were both pulled away by somebody else. There was the son or whatever the fuck.
Sure.
That got pulled away. And there was also a girl who seemed interested, but then her friend pulled her away.
And it's almost this might be history repeating itself for some of these folks. Like Blake mentions, people who weren't born here fled to get away from everything awful in the world. And so half of the people on the island potentially have never met a human, don't care about humans, and maybe can be manipulated into this rah, stand against evil. And then the other half probably went through this the first time with White Fang recruitment, and they just see this as more of the same. It's again kind of the Star Wars analogy. Does it really matter for Joe Galaxy Citizen if the rebellion or the Empire is running the galaxy? And the answer is no. They just want to go about their day. And for whatever reason, Blake thought she would have the clout, and she just clearly doesn't.
No, not at all. I forgot what I was going to say. I was trying to remember through that
just
entire
start
thing.
Yelling fish faunus.
Fish faunus. Yes, fish faunus exist. That's a thing I didn't really think about. I think I might have thought about when in like Volume 1, but I really didn't.
I want to know what their biological environmental requirements are. Like, do they have to stay in the water? Do they just choose to stay in the water?
Gills on any of them. There were actually also stands set up in the water.
Yeah, it was like very clear that like people, but there were also like stairs down to the water, and so.
But there's no houses in the water that we saw.
They might be underwater.
You did it. You cracked the code.
There we go. But yeah, that.
So yeah, this whole section really didn't give it didn't leave any impressions on me. Really, it was just like, okay, they're getting signatures. Like, there's nothing really to pull from this. But then we sit down with Blake and have. I don't really know how to feel about it. I don't think I feel either way about it. But she is like, oh, I like describing people in one word, which is. To me, that's like, this is what these characters mean. This is what they are. Like, this is the creator is just telling us that. But it was in a way that makes sense.
I accept that as something that Blake would do. That seems in character for her.
It didn't seem out of place necessarily. It just seemed very much like, this is what these characters are, guys. Look.
And again, it was a little bit too much of this exposition delivered in a very heavy-handed manner. I'm not... While I 100% believe that Blake as a character would do this, I don't know that I believe she would volunteer that information so easily to Sun. Especially with his question of Adam. He's the guy you used to work with?
Yeah.
Which I love that line. Again, that was one of those moments where, Sun is the Nora for this scene, because that's what the fandom wants to ask.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much like they were dating or something, because he's like, my love. And Blake didn't be like, why the fuck are you calling me love?
Maybe. I'm still rooting for like a relationship with Ilya, especially given the later scene, but we'll do that.
Oh, I did want to elaborate a little bit on the reason, because I mentioned that I didn't like Sun, and then I just kind of like didn't say anything about it else. And it is because like
you hate monkeys.
No. It's like recently, like ever since he was fucking introduced and like talking to Blake, it's like he's just there to push the plot along. Like Nora. No. See, the thing with Nora is like she's like explaining stuff in like simpler terms a lot of the times, but he's just like, okay, now we're moving to here. Like now we're doing this.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, oh, this happened, that means this, which is what Nora does a lot. And I don't know, he just seems...
He is plot device man.
Yeah, he's too two-dimensional. Like, he has no backstory. He has no stakes in anything. He's just kind of there because, oh, Blake, I want to bang her. Like, that's pretty much it. And now he's, like, helping her out and stuff. But, I mean,
God. Oh, God, is Son of Mary Sue?
Probably. But, yeah, I don't know. He's always bothered me. Ever since he was introduced, I wasn't a huge fan of him. I love the way Michael voices him, and, like, I love his manners and everything. It's just, as a character, there's nothing there that I can tell. There's might be something later, but he just really seems like an ancillary character that he just kind of, like, happened to become part of the main plot because of, like, Blake needs somebody to talk to so that plot can happen.
And here's our convenient Faunus friend.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, you could be anybody. Like, he just doesn't matter.
He's the token Faunus character. That's terrible. But yeah, I
mean, pretty much. I mean, that's what he was at first.
Yeah.
Like, he was literally just like, hey, there's a Faunus. Look at that Faunus. We're going to go talk to that Faunus or whatever. And then,
I mean, even characters like Neptune at least have quirks of afraid of water or whatever.
Yes, that's the thing. It's like he has no, like, character to him either. It's like he's just like the same emotion all the time.
Hyperactive.
Which is not voice acting's fault or anything. It's like, it's just, they don't know what to do with him, I feel like.
It's quite possible. Which may also mean that he is not going to last much longer. I'm kind of wondering if there might be death flags on him.
I don't think so, but I think once that Blake meets back up with the rest of Team RWBY, then he's going to become like a very like who cares character. So unless something happens and then like Blake just like
there was
saved by him and just falls from something, which doesn't.
There was one part of this monologue that I kind of latched onto just because it has that foreshadowing feeling. And it's when Blake calls out that she's going to try to help Ilya the way that Sun helped her, and by being there as a friend. So we've kind of boxed in very nicely that Sun's purpose in this visit to Menagerie was to help Blake get over her issues. Sun has fulfilled his purpose. And Blake then states, it's about time I saved my friends for once.
Yep.
This is a problem. Blake is going to do something stupid. She's going to take some overdramatic, unnecessary risk and try to play hero. She is thinking she's acting nobly, but we're officially on a bad track with her right now, and
just a little bit.
I'm kind of wondering if Sun might get axed this volume, probably as a plot device, and at this point, it would probably be justified calling him being put in the freezer, or fridging.
Or Sun accidentally kills Ilya, and then Blake leaves him forever. I
see unlikely.
I pulled a little bit. Yeah, that's completely insane. I actually pulled a completely different thing from the same exact words that I felt like it was almost foreshadowing her future interactions with Yang once they meet back up, because Yang's not gonna probably want to talk to her all that much, and Blake's gonna like try to like break through her bubble, because also Yang is very different than what the fuck am I trying to say?
Words.
What she once was. There we go. Jesus Christ.
Wow, dude.
So like Blake's gonna come in and be like, oh, Yang's like just broody now all the time, which we don't know if that's true or not.
And then Blake will be like, this is my thing. But
how dare you? No, then Blake will like break through her shell and make her like, what?
I'm presuming that all of Team RWBY is going to get back together this volume.
Yep.
But frankly, if Blake did not rejoin the team this volume, I would not be shocked from a storytelling point of view. Just because right now what she's doing, she's kind of floundering. I just hit my mic. She's kind of floundering in Menagerie, but particularly, I'm kind of jumping ahead to the end of the episode. People are plotting against her. It's not out of the question that she's going to be captured by the enemy or that sort of thing in the near term, and I don't see the rest of Team RWBY getting together and trying to save her because they don't know what's happening. So unless there's some bizarre situation of the rest of Team RWBY becomes aware of the White Fang's pending attack in, a week or 6 months or whatever the timeline is.
Or the other way around.
It may be that they stumble upon Blake as a hostage, but I don't see
They've
Blake.
They've already done that twice. So
they have, but I don't see Blake gracefully rejoining Team RWBY. So I'm not sure how much of a buildup here could potentially be with Yang. But there could be some stuff here of her family getting killed or son getting killed.
Yeah, I'm really curious as to, I'm trying to think of, ways that she would get to Mistral, because they know that shit's going down there. They're trying to get people to sign for stuff to go there.
It's probably entirely her game plan that they're on their way to Haven. They know the attack's coming right before the school year starts. They've got a ship ready to go. That may be her game plan. Yeah, that may be the game plan. But with all of the other pieces in motion, I don't see that playing out. And that was kind of the most direct route for getting back together with Team RWBY. So, I don't know.
So there you go. So let's move on to the next scene. So we have Oscar and Ruby talking.
Do not ship.
No.
Do not ship.
Not in the slightest.
No,
it's really weird because people are like, oh look, people are like, Shipper's gonna go crazy for this, and I was like, I don't see any interactions that are
Ruby's got all this ridiculous body language where she's all awkward and uncomfortable and shuffling towards him and giggling, and it's like, girl, stop.
It's just more that was yes, but I mean all their other interactions so far, and I feel like that's just a thing of me not wanting it to happen, so I don't see it.
No. I don't want it to happen, and I see it. She's all giggly. He's enamored. This needs to stop, people. This is not okay.
Yeah, so...
Anyway.
I thought it was weird that, Ruby walked into him going, ah! And just swinging once, and you're getting really good.
Yeah, and again, this scene...
That was really funny to me.
This scene just didn't play out terribly well. And again, we fuck up the timeline, because in this current... back in Menagerie, we had 2 months before school started. In Ranger timeline, we had a month before school started. And then Oscar says that he's only had the cane for a few weeks. So school starts next week, apparently.
Yeah, I've given up trying to keep track of any of that.
At this point, it infuriates me, so I'm actively tagging it every time someone references time.
Volume 6, all the timelines will be coherent and the same.
Unless Blake has been kidnapped.
Fucked up.
We have no idea
even in previous volumes, they're really bad at showing how much time has passed. So
even in previous volumes, you could hand wave a bit. It seems that Volume 1 was a semester. Volume 2 was a semester.
Yeah.
Volume 3 was a
tournament.
Week.
Yeah.
Volume 4, Volume 5, oh god, what...
I feel like Volume 4 took place over the same amount of time. It's just where we spot each time. It's literally impossible to tell where in that timeline each thing happens at. Except for everybody leaving. Well, not even that necessarily.
Yeah.
So fuck it. It's all fucked. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we have no idea what's going on.
But we got a first Penny reference since she died. I forget that she existed sometimes. I'm sorry for all of those of you who loved Penny and still do, but I literally forget she existed sometimes.
See, I didn't have that problem. The second Ruby did the "you'll be combat ready in no time," that was like,
oh yeah, yeah. I was saying for me, if I hear the reference, if I hear a reference to Penny, I'll be like, oh shit. But just I'm not thinking oh yeah, Penny's here. Penny existed.
See, I'm one of those people. If you look at the new outfit that Ruby has starting in Volume 4, it looks like it's taken some cues from Penny's outfit.
Absolutely, yeah.
So every time I see it, I'm like, aww.
Oh yeah, that's fair. I've kind of even forgotten about that. I got reminded of it recently thanks to the subreddit, but
hey.
So they're going. Oscar is like, "Hey, everything's fucked up. Why? How? What are you doing?" And Ruby's like,
"What does Oscar know?"
Everything. He should know everything.
He should, but then he doesn't seem to. Like he's got this panic and confusion about the looming battle. He wants to know how Ruby's handling things, and then he knows nothing about the fall of Beacon.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are you demanding to know how Ruby's handling things? You don't obviously seem to know that Ruby should be handling things badly or well.
Mm-hmm.
You're just...
Well, I mean, like, he did say it's like, he knows that people tried to kill her, that, like, all this shit's happening. So he mentioned those things, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I
guess the bar for me on... It's like, okay, yeah, sure, monsters try to kill him too. Next problem. Like, yeah. Maybe for Oscar, that's a pretty significant bar, and for Ruby, it's like, all right, yeah, it's Tuesday, and...
So, yeah, and that's the thing, is like, he's never seen any combat or anything, really. But it is good that you mentioned that, like, he didn't know about the fall of Beacon and stuff, because that is mentioned later when he's like, I watched two of my friends die right in front of my own eyes. And then Oscar's like, oh, gotcha.
Yep.
It's like, nothing that I'm going through right now matters anymore. Which I kind of appreciate. He was just like, he just kind of like, he went from like freaking out and everything and be like, my two friends died right in front of my eyes. And she's like, and then Oscar is just like, got it. Okay, moving on. It's like, I understand now.
It was interesting to hear Ruby talk about all this. Like, I know this was a big complaint. I keep hitting my mic.
I'm not hearing it if it makes you feel any better.
That's fine. Maybe I'm just hitting the thing.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck it.
Anyway, I know this was a big complaint in the fandom during Volume 4 that Ruby didn't seem to be handling things, or at least addressing what had happened. She just, per usual, wasn't talking about it, which to me was fine. Like, I considered that a valid storytelling method of, we are seeing how Ruby is dealing with this just kind of based on her actions, and not so much what she says. And
Ruby is such a weird character for me now. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it's a subtle storytelling method. Like, I understand why most of the fandom gets uppity about it, but I've always been fine with it. Of no, she's letting her actions dictate how she's feeling. She's just John is waving around his sword, going, "I'm mad," and Ruby's just like, "Yep." So having this moment where with a character that she doesn't really know, but also somehow has Ozpin's, like, no one seems to mind the fact that Ozpin's here and hearing everything. Like,
that's something else I wanted to mention actually before I get into the whole Ruby's character thing, because that is something I wanted to talk about at some point, and now seems like a good time to do it. But like, Oscar's having all these worries and stuff. He's got a fucking like 1,000-year-old counselor that's been through literally everything life can throw at you.
What's Ozpin doing? Taking a nap?
Yeah, seriously. It's like, I'm having all these issues. I'm not going to ask the person that like is inhabiting my brain.
No, I'm going to yell at Ruby for no reason.
Yeah, and like, we don't see Ozpin's like, it's like, what the dude? Stop yelling at her. Like, she's been through a lot. Fuck off. Although we do get afterward, he's like, yeah, she's been through a lot. Like, yeah, it's been bad.
Yeah, but then we get like creepy Ozpin again of, she's remarkable, isn't she?
Yeah, that was weird.
It's like, stop it!
That was weird. I've been thinking about like, too much. Like, just, you know, he's going through his life and like, how many like people, or like how many like wives or whatever he had, like how many relationships has he been through and everything. Like, does he go after that kind of stuff? Or
younger women?
Like, yeah. And well, I just mean like, is he okay with like pursuing a relationship despite, you know, being him?
I mean, we never necessarily saw anything in previous volumes, but we haven't really seen that for a lot of the quote adult characters.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless you totally buy into what I do of Ironwood and Glinda used to totally go out because there's a lot of tension there.
I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. So real quick, I want to touch on Ruby's whole thing because there was something on the subreddit recently talking about it, and I was like, you know what? I really agree with that. And it's like Ruby has almost no characterization lately. Like she still shows her personality and everything really, really well, but there's like been no progression with her at all. Like she's still the same person, despite being all through this. And I understand like that's the purity thing.
Yeah.
But boy, is that boring from a storytelling standpoint. Like, even the most pure person in the world is going to have times where they're just like, oh, boy. And maybe that's going to be a huge plot point further on, like you were talking about, where she just like breaks, and maybe that's how her eyes start activating and stuff.
But it would be nice if we were starting to see some of that, and not in the form of a pseudo-motivational speech to more or less a total stranger where she's revealing very personal information.
And she didn't really react too much to it. She was just pretty stoned, which I mean, that makes sense because she's talking about a traumatic experience. So you don't expect people to be like all over the place or whatever, but it's just like, she didn't seem like too sad.
Given that Ruby
anything
doesn't talk about these things like that, like this almost felt out of character. Just because it had been so well established that Ruby internalizes so much and reacts to situations with action. When even in Volume 1, when Weiss freaks out at her for being a bad leader, Ruby doesn't go and confront Weiss after her discussion with Ozpin. She goes out and she gets her homework and she starts studying her ass off. Like, she addresses problems with action. She does not address them with words.
And it could be something with the Silver-Eyed Warriors that's a thing. Like, maybe that, like, the Silver-Eyed Warriors have trouble expressing emotion or something, and they use all of that bottled up emotion to use their power. Who knows?
And instead, we got a Ruby monologue.
Yeah. So...
We did get a very nice keep moving forward moment, though.
Yes,
I appreciated that, even though the rest of the monologue was like, what are we doing?
I actually forgot about that, and that was like my favorite part of the episode, easily. But I'm just gonna touch through all my notes real quick. So it was really interesting to see Ruby's reaction after Oscar saying, "How are you okay with this?" And Ruby just fucking stares off into space. and it's like, oh, she's not. It's like, Oscar, I'm not okay with this. And I kind of wish she said that, but she just kind of avoided the question altogether and just said, "Hey, my friends died." And he's like, "Oh." And it was cool seeing...
I would have preferred her like snapping at him or something instead of
that would have been out of character for sure. I would rather have the scene that we got than something like crazy, something we've never seen from Ruby before. Because this is just not the moment for it, I feel like. I feel like...
See, I
actually really like the scene because I did feel like the characters played as they would have and acted like as they would have, and like it made sense to me at least. It just was like a little flat, is all.
See, if Ruby had like shut down and Oscar had just like kept getting in her face.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe she snapped.
But again, it's just not Ruby to me at all. Like, I know you want her to break and everything, but like, it's just not her at all.
But the shutting down is much more her, in my opinion. The yes, allow me to explain everything was like...
I mean, she didn't shut down at any point in the past. Her whole kind of thing is like, we need to keep moving forward. And so it makes sense why she would be okay with talking about it in that aspect. I don't know. Like I said, it makes sense to me. Interpret it as you will. There was a moment where at the end of the speech, I think it like cuts to a different angle. It didn't make sense this time. Ruby's again staring off into space, but this time for no reason. And then Oscar walks up and Ruby just looks down, and I'm just curious what the fuck Ruby was looking at.
Dramatic framing.
Because the first time it was like 1,000-yard stare kind of thing, and she was just kind of looking up, but she's like she's like looking straight up, like, oh fuck, look at those aliens. What's up? Oh shit, Oscar, sorry. Like, it was so weird to me. I don't know. It was just really jarring. Something I noticed.
There were a couple odd animation moments in this. Like, even if we skip back to Blake's monologue, during a lot of her talking, there's a whole bunch of characters in the background, and they are not moving at all. And so some of the really good stuff we saw early in this volume of very natural background movement and general actor behavior, it just wasn't in this episode, which I think was also part of the problem. Because
I don't know, this episode was so weird. It just like, it felt flat, the entire thing. Yeah. I don't know. And like, there's a poll on the RWBY subreddit. I'm mentioning the RWBY subreddit a lot. Hey, you should probably go check that out. There's a poll for every episode, and last I looked, I'm just gonna look right now. Last I looked, it was a 7, which is the lowest I've seen in a long time. Like, that doesn't sound bad at all, but last episode's was a 10. The one before that was an 8, and I think the one before that was a 9 or a 10.
I mean, we've had some really, like, this is easily, in my opinion at least, the I don't want to use the word worst, but the worst episode of the volume. I mean,
just because it's the worst episode of the volume doesn't mean it's a bad episode. I want to say this, I don't think this is necessarily a bad episode. It's just not quite up to par with what we've been seeing so far this volume.
And again, it may play out very smoothly in the movie.
Yes.
So...
that is still a very good point. Oh, God, I closed all my notes. Hold on. All right. So that's pretty much all we got for that. And then we go back to Corsic and Fennec, Dog Bros, who apparently are the actual leaders of the White Fang or some shit, because they're pulling strings all sorts of all over the place without Adam or the High Leader, whoever that may be at the time, whoever they choose.
I want to know how much they buy what they're saying. Like, Ilya's a fanatic. She is informed on the fact that SantaCon has been murdered and that we are lying to everyone. Like, she and the evil Dog Bros are in on this entirely, and she's okay with this because it is a necessary sacrifice. The Dog Bros just seem to be like, yeah, it's totally a necessary sacrifice. I'm glad you think that way.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they are trying to, like, do some... I don't know what the fuck. Because it's like, you know, we have Adam's whole thing. It's like he wants to do whatever. And then we have these two that are, like, pulling the streams to get him into place. And I don't think Adam really knows. I mean, he's probably going to... I feel like he's going to find out and just murder them. And then, you know...
But, and they also...
It's so weird.
But they do seem to be following Adam, and they don't... Like, I love the bit at the end where they show the little video clip of Adam being ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Bring her to me alive and slaughter her family. And they're like, he seems unwell.
It's really cool to me that, because he said, we have finally received a word from our brothers in Mistral. And I feel like that video was the word that they got. Not necessarily of the murder, but like, you know, they did tell Ilya what he said, but just in a much nicer way. And I'm really curious as to what Ilya would do if she found that video. Because that's pretty fucked up. It was like, he's not doing this out of like, this is the best for the fans. He's doing this out of like, fuck these guys, I hate them.
Yeah, and he
seems unwell. It's really the only way to describe it.
And like, the delivery on that line was beautiful. Just like,
oh yeah, that was good.
Okay. But yeah, Ilya in this bit, I want to see more of her. Like, if we're going to continue spending time in Menagerie, I want it to be like Ilya interactions, just because she's got some... Because
that's the only interesting... Yeah, it's just the only interest. I can't fucking... Oh boy, it's been a day. She's the only interesting person around. That's what I was trying to say.
Kind of right now, because Blake is refinding herself. She had for a while been doing the nice angsty former terrorist shtick, and now she's trying to do the righteous indignation thing, and it's just not quite working.
Once that falls apart,
Ilya's coming in with the crazy.
Yeah, once all that stuff falls apart for Blake, I feel like that storyline is going to get so much more interesting because like we see now where it's going and it's like, oh, cool. So yeah, that's going to be insanity.
Hopefully. It's things have been a little too easy for Blake lately, and that's never seems to bode well for anyone.
Especially the viewers, because it's really boring. But you know, we love to see our characters suffer, and that's going to happen in spades. Just based on what the voice actors and actresses have been tweeting.
Oh yeah, did you see Lindsay's tweet the other day?
No.
She apparently like started passing out in the booth and
I did see that. Okay,
ran out of the booth and like puked her guts out and then went back and finished her RWBY line. So it's like,
feel like that was just a sick thing more than
maybe. Yeah. Like she made a comment about overexerting herself. So
yeah, good point.
We'll see.
Yeah, now we have Ilya has some choices to make, whether to murder or not, and she have they tasked her with like killing anybody ever before? Do we know? I don't think that's a thing.
Probably.
She seems more an informant.
But also, at least based on the Blake character short, Ilya probably wouldn't have a problem with that. Like, she very much seems to be all about the righteous justice of...
Well, I mean, just based on this episode alone, like this interaction, we can tell that she's not too worried about it. She's like, oh, I need to murder someone. Who is it? The Belladonna is it. And then she's like,
Yeah. And especially when they specifically bring up Blake. Like, if it was just the Belladonnas, then even that seemed, well, maybe uncomfortable, still okay. She's almost uncomfortable just from the political aspect. But then when it specifically use your relationship with Blake, that's when she gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm shipping them as exes just because it makes me happy.
I think this, like, everything with the storyline is going to get a lot more interesting, like I was saying. And hopefully we'll get some, like... I just feel like there's no story progression here, really. Like, there was information being told, but there was no real progression with anything. And I feel like that was kind of the issue.
Yeah.
So hopefully next episode we'll be getting a lot more actual... like stuff happening and less heavy-handed exposition.
Yes.
Which hopefully we're going to see Yang and Weiss.
Oh my God.
If we don't, I'm going to flip my shit.
You know what? We can have exposition there. We can go in the tent and we can have a 20-minute episode of just Raven talking about everything. That's fine. I will take that.
So yeah, hopefully next episode will be pretty good. And then Batman appears.
The messenger is dead.
I forgot
I am the night.
Yeah, it's just straight up Batman. I don't know. Real ass Batman. Man-Bat.
Man-Bat?
Even. And that's the end of the episode. Boy, that was pretty short. So we're going to move on to predictions. And predictions and theories. So I actually watched, when I watched the Murder of Birds chapter 4 reaction, my brain, he mentioned that once Raven talked about Ozpin, he mentioned that the lyrics to Sacrifice could be from Raven.
Ooh.
So I went and looked it all up. I actually had it copied and pasted. I just realized, and it's gone. So that's fun. But I went back and looked at the lyrics. You should too as well. I might like put them up on the screen or something. I don't know. But if you go back and read them, it fits weirdly well. So I feel like that's the case because it's talking about like... There's actually a few certain things I wanted to talk about, but it's basically just talking about not following this person like everyone else is, and like this person is just like doing whatever the fuck they want. It's not even working. But there was an interesting lyric in there about watching the roses die.
Yep.
And I'm curious if the Silver-Eyed Warriors are just the Rose family, and that's just the beginning and end of it. Like there's like some kind of reincarnation where they don't keep their memories, and obviously like Summer and Ruby existed at the same time, or it was just purely genetic. The Rose family just passed down that, and they're like the last family or something.
That'd be cool.
It'd be interesting. So that's just something I noticed. You should definitely go look up the lyrics to that though, because it's pretty freaky, and I'm pretty sure that's like what it is. There's also born an angel, heaven sent, falls from grace, are never elegant. Ozpin, we just found out, was cursed by the gods, which maybe, and there's also another thing in there. This is like getting crazy now, but something about like escaping like your fate, but not quite worded that way. It's worded in a way that makes it sound like this person is trying to get to space. So and your
space.
No, I'm curious if like Ozpin was literally like sent by the gods as like an angel, like what he was originally like intended as to be, but then he failed his mission, and then he was cursed to live forever until his mission was completed. God, so he could have been an angel, heaven sent, and then fell from grace.
Ozpin's actually Lucifer.
I was just about to say which would make him Satan, but
yeah.
So that's what I got, and like I said, go ahead and look at those lyrics and see what you see for yourself, but that's what I see.
Moon will sadly watch the roses die.
Mm-hmm. Also,
well, conveniently, we blew up the moon. No,
moon laser. No, the moon's a laser now. It's giant grim.
Batman.
Batman moon.
Batman moon.
Bat moon.
You killed my parents. My parents are dead.
Do you have any predictions or theories you would like to share?
You don't want me just yelling sort of Batman quotes?
I mean, you can, but we do have to wrap up this video at some point.
In theory. So my prediction kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier about Blake's terrible comment of it's about time I saved my friends for once. So the White Fang is pretty much definitely coming after her family. We know they're under orders at this point. They're to take Blake alive. They're to kill off her parents. When shit inevitably starts to go down, I would not be surprised if Blake offers to surrender quietly if her parents and son are spared. And Ilya may even agree to it, and she may agree to it in earnest. And then the second they walk away, the White Fang's probably going to kill everyone.
Could be.
So my guess is Blake and her new whatever quest that she's on of I will help everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna come and bite her in the ass. But I'm kind of predicting she voluntarily surrenders and everyone dies anyway, and she doesn't even possibly know.
Yeah, that could happen.
And then angst.
Yes. So, is that all you got?
That's all I got.
Alrighty, so then that will be the end of this video. It's a lot shorter than the other ones, but there wasn't a lot of content to cover in this one. So,
sorry guys.
Yeah, it's fine. Just makes it easier for me to edit.
We shall spend the next 15 minutes talking like Batman.
I'm good, thanks. But thank you for joining me. I mean, you can talk like Batman the rest of the video. It's going to be like 2 seconds, though.
Okay.
Thank you, Rebkos, for joining me.
You're welcome.
And that'll be it for this video. So if you enjoyed, please comment below, and we'll try to be in the comments talking about your stuff. The video for Chapter 4 should be going up before this goes up, because, dear God, should be going up before this next episode airs. But that thing, there's been a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, share the word and comment and stuff. And that'll be it for this episode. So, bye-bye.
I am the knight.